So you want to make your own dice? Then this is the video for you. Before starting, grab all the supplies that you'll need. You'll need rubber gloves, a mold, both parts resin, popsicle sticks, ink for coloring, liquid glitter to add shine, a couple of disposable cups, a lighter, an X-Acto knife, some fine grit sandpaper, a thin paint, and some fine brushes to apply the paint. To start, you will need to prepare a space to mix and pour your resin. You can use a cutting mat or a sheet of matte wax paper. You will begin by mixing both parts of your resin. The resin I'm using is a 1-to-1 ratio of part A and part B, but yours may be different. You'll need to make sure that the parts are mixed together as best as you can. It should take about 5 minutes of steady stirring. Stir slowly but consistently to reduce the number of bubbles. You'll know when it's fully mixed when you won't be able to see any streaks in the resin. Now it's time to add your color and glitter. Just a couple of drops of each will do. You don't want to use too much liquid glitter because it uses water as a base and too much could ruin the resin. You will want to be equally as careful if you plan to use food coloring for your colors, as it also uses a water base. Even if you use an alcohol-based coloring, like me, a little ink will go a long way, so a couple drops is just enough. Give it a good mix, and then you're ready to move on to pouring your resin. Slowly pour your resin into the molds as to reduce the amount of bubbles that will end up in the mold before it cures. After all the molds are filled, you will have a bunch of bubbles that float to the top. Quickly run the lighter over the top of them to get rid of them, but not long enough to hurt the molds. After the resin has cured for 24 hours, they are good to be removed from their molds. They should come out without much effort. There may be some impurities that we need to be fixing, but that is to be expected when using resin. You will want to take your X-Acto knife and run it along each of the edges of the dice. This will cut off any excess resin that has solidified. You can take your sandpaper and tape it down to a surface to have a makeshift sanding board. I'm going to apply a little bit of water to the paper to catch any resin dust that would come from sanding the die. Rub each side of the die on the paper in a circle about 50 times to rough them. After working each side of the die, move to a smaller grit sandpaper until you have a glass-like shine to your dice. You should have some fantastic looking dice at this point. Now it's time to add the final touches. We are going to apply some paint to each of the numbers, using your brush to fill in each number with ink. Don't worry if any paint is applied to the face of the die, because you can easily wipe it off with your finger. Once you have finished painting each side of your dice, let them dry for a couple minutes. And bam, you'll have a complete set of dice that you made all by yourself.